Hello everyone, Stephen Barber here, freedom lifestyle guide and vlogger with a giant Camarones looking like it's gonna devour me over my shoulder here. That's a big shrimp, one of the major fish catches that are here in Mazatlan. Apparently they have the largest fleet of shrimp boats anywhere in Mexico are here in Mazatlan. And I have a thought of the day that comes from law of attraction for you today, and then I'll talk about it a little bit. 100 years ago, no one could imagine the lifestyle you live right now. This is the reason they could not live a life as opulent as you, because they didn't believe it was possible. And I'll just interject, at those times, maybe 100 years ago or more, if we'd even thought or mentioned to other people that we could maybe fly or talk to other people without seeing them across the world, not only do they not believe it, that they would probably burn you at the stake for having had that idea. I think I've mentioned that before. You, however, believe it is quite natural for you to live as you do. We take it for granted as natural stuff. In fact, you yearn to experience even more. This is true of almost everyone. It is this yearning for more that leads new generations of people to even higher standards of living. And a couple of weeks ago, when I first arrived here in Sabalo area of Mazatlan, I met a lady on the beach, and I did an interview with her. Unfortunately, when I replay it, the sound of the surf and the wind is just too much. Too much of the conversation is lost to try to salvage it. But she used to work for the telephone company back in the days of BC Tel, and so did I. I was there when it was BC Tel. She was there before me, so she remembers and was part of some of the things that were happening there before my time. And she told me a story of how she was working in the one central office. It's an area that covers a certain community, and they were going to have a teleconference call with another community, let's say 25 miles away. And in order to do this, they brought in two huge TV cameras and had one at each end, and they had to connect them together, which was quite a feat in those days. And then they had to also set up audio back and forth between those two places. And they had, I guess, what you might call a teleconferencing call. But oh my gosh, the amount of equipment and power and the size of everything was just amazing. And yet in those days, back I think she said in 1965, so I was probably what, 7 years old at that time, they had a teleconference call of sorts between two offices, and it was just amazing leading edge technology to perform that. She also talked about all kinds of other things. I don't know if you remember, there used to be something called the Phone Mart here. That's where they sold rotary phones that people would use to make calls to each other. You'd have to dial it. I love seeing movies right now of giving that to a millennial, give them a rotary dial phone and ask them to show you how they make a phone call. And it's hilarious. Things that we used to take for granted are no longer used, and so people don't know how to use that kind of stuff. You know, I fly here. We have drones that can fly cameras now up into the sky. I'm talking now to you on an iPhone in Mazatlan. I will repost that video up to YouTube, complete with sound and audio and video to a platform in the cloud somewhere that you can later listen to this on. I'll download it onto other social media sites called Facebook. I mean, this was unheard of even, I don't know, was it 10 years ago? Did we even have this kind of stuff? I think Facebook was just coming out then. And so it's amazing just how much we have progressed. And we believe it's natural and normal and part of everyday life, and we're going to do that more. So I guess it's just interesting to note that, you know, just how much we live, the quality of lifestyle. If you watch the episode The Crown recently, talking about Britain and the royalty back in the 60s, 70s, 80s. You know, and the way that they lived, yeah, they lived very opulent lifestyles, but the technology that's available to the average person living in a first world country such as we are right now is just way beyond leaps and bounds. We got leaps in air conditioning, you know, we've got cars, unbelievable kinds of cars. Technology, the way we can communicate with each other is really quite something. And then there's the other part that's not referred to in the quote today, and that is the way that we've journeyed also in our inner world, and the way we understand way more about how we work as human beings, about emotion, about psychology, about quantum mechanics, and all of that kind of stuff. We have just come so much further along. So just something to be aware of, something to note, that, you know, just how far we've come in this world, and that as creators, especially if we're conscious creators, moving things forward in a conscious way in the external world, but first and more importantly, I believe, on the internal world, that we are busy creating our lives on an ongoing, refreshing, daily basis. So that's what I have for you today. And it was interesting last night, just as a side thing, in Mexico, it was the festival of Guadalupe. And so at midnight, if you can believe it, the Spanish people bring their young children, and they're dressed in these little outfits. The little boys have little mustaches and beards painted on them, and the little girls are on these little adorable outfits, and they bring them to church. And the thing went till 6 o'clock in the morning this morning. So starting at midnight, and then going to 6 o'clock this morning. And this morning in the square, many of the kids were there still, and half of them looked like they were dazed out of their minds. But really kind of fun to watch. So a big thing going on here leading up to the other festivals of Christmas. So that's what I have for you today. I hope you're having a good day. Bye for now.